nothing is more disappointing than seeing a really amazing image, clicking through on it, and like ending up at some dead Tumblr link. I'm sure it's all happened to you. It's really super sad. Putting a list on top of your pin makes somebody immediately know this isn't just a pretty picture. This pin sits on top of a blog post or sits on top of a website and links somewhere that's really useful and is going to give me even extra information in addition to what's shown here. So it's an immediate visual cue to somebody. That's useful, that's actionable, I want to see it. Exact same thing with text overlays. Explaining to someone right up front, this is not just a pretty picture, this is going to like a portal to you and to a blog post or to a website that has a lot of additional information is super helpful, and it helps kind of stand up out in the grid. And if you guys use Pinterest on your mobile phone and you're just scrolling and scrolling, having a text overlay or having a list overlay lets somebody immediately visually know, like, hey, this is actually like a really useful blog post or a really useful pin. And then tasteful branding. I get a lot of questions around whether or not you should watermark as a blogger and things like that. You definitely can. Just obviously make sure that it doesn't obscure the main purpose of the image itself. Put it in the corner, it's totally fine to do that. And then some of the last tips is use vertical pins. This is really important. About 80% of Pinterest usage is on mobile devices, so meaning mobile phones and tablets. It's a lot of tiny pictures, right, that people are looking at. Vertical pins, meaning like the portrait orientation, just stand out a little bit better in the grid. As you can see from that screenshot, vertical takes up more real estate, it shows up better, it's not shrunken down, so vertical oriented always performs better as opposed to horizontal. We kind of covered this, but don't use like a mobile grainy shot on Pinterest. It's just not the place. Pinterest is a place where people are, again, like seeking professional level content, right? They're looking for something that was styled, that was put together really well, whether it's a product shot or an outfit or something like that, or a meal. Professional level imagery does much better. I don't think any of you guys have to worry about your pins looking like banner ads, but again, if you want a watermark, if you want to put your actual entire blog name on the pin image itself, you're totally welcome. Just make sure that your pin doesn't end up looking like a banner ad. And then we covered it, don't use hashtags. Don't make a difference. So moving into how to make your website Pinterest friendly. This is another really, really important bucket of information because Pinterest is one of those strange platforms where you can actually not have a profile at all and still get traffic back from it. I mean, obviously I want all of you guys to have profiles, but it's the truth, right? People can pin your content regardless of whether or not you have a Pinterest account. Your content can exist on Pinterest and people can click back on those pins back to your website. And you wouldn't have to do a single thing in order for that to happen. But you probably want a lot of it to happen, and in order to encourage that, you should definitely implement pin it buttons on your site. Because the reality is you can pin all day, all night until you're blue in the face, but that's going to be a drop in the bucket compared to empowering your readers, 100 people, 1,000 people, all the people who come to your blog and your website, encouraging them to pin your content for you is going to be so much more impactful. Every time they pin something, it's shown to their followers. Every time their pin is repinned, it's shown to those followers. So the more people you can get to pin your content, the better, and pin it buttons are a huge way to do that. And I'll have a website where you can go get all of these tools I'm going to talk through later. But I also wanted to mention there's the basic pin it button that you can sit at your blog post header, your blog post footer, and that works great. But we also have a newer hover pin it button option, and that actually enables people, yeah, I see you nodding. It actually allows people anytime they hover over any image on your blog post, say there's 5 images in a blog post, it'll show a pin it button on each and every single one. So again, it's just a little bit more insistent on and encouraging and letting people know that they can pin your content. And it's definitely helping people perform a little bit better on Pinterest. Rich pins. So just quick gauge. How many of you guys know what rich pins are? Show of hands. Not a lot. Those were some hesitant hands too. They were wavering. Maybe. So rich pins, it sounds scary. It is a little bit technical, but it's totally achievable if you have a web developer or somebody who helps you with your blog, or if you want to learn this yourself. It's a simple set of markup that you add to your blog content. So if you're a recipe blogger, you can add recipe pins to your blog. And essentially what that does is tell us the name of the recipe, the ingredients, how long your recipe takes, and just like wraps up that information in easy to digest HTML and markup. And then you apply for rich pins on our website, and then Pinterest is able to tell automatically, oh, this is a recipe pin. So we can show in bold on Pinterest automatically the title of the recipe, the ingredients of the recipe, how long it takes to cook. And because we know rich pins are always guaranteed to have a great source, like in order for us to read that information, we know that the markup exists on your website. We know that that permalink is sound, is trustworthy. We do elevate rich pins above other pins in our search result rankings. So if you implement rich pins, you're automatically giving all of your pin content a boost in our search results. So it's really helpful for getting more engagement. The types that are probably most relevant to you guys are article pins. We call them article pins, but really you can apply them to blog posts just as you could like an article from the New York Times. So here's actually an example from Man Repeller and how it shows up on Pinterest. The title is extra bold, how to style ballet flats. She gets her little profile picture underneath the pin, so it's essentially like your logo or whatever you use as your main profile picture. She gets a nice big read it button that links back to her website, and it includes like a quick blurb from the top of her blog post to describe it a little bit better. And because they have like your little favicon or your profile picture, because they have the bold title, they do, in addition to just being purposefully elevated in our search result rankings, they also just stand out more on the grid. So we definitely see higher engagement on rich pins than we do regular pins. And then really lastly, have a business account. They're free, they're exactly the same as a regular Pinterest account. You can convert an existing Pinterest account really, really easily and nothing happens. You know, your existing followers are all the same, your boards, your pins, all that stays the same, but what you do get is access to more business features and our business newsletter and tips. So the most important part of switching to a business account is that you can confirm your website and get access to Pinterest analytics, which is super important. We actually have 3 types of analytics. They're all available in the same dashboard. So the first one is just, what are people pinning from your website? It's what we call domain analytics. Again, you could pin absolutely nothing for an entire year, and you could still see Pinterest domain analytics. Because what it's showing you is what are people engaging with from your website. Kind of to what Emily was saying, right? Like, if you notice that people are really into pinning your hair and beauty content, but you're not producing as much of it as you used to, maybe you should revisit that strategy. Maybe you should produce more hair and beauty content because that's what people really love. The second type of analytics is your Pinterest profile analytics. So this is what you, on your Pinterest username, are pinning and how is that performing. Your top pins, your most popular boards, what's getting the most search results, impressions, etc. And the last one we call audience analytics, and that's really just who are the people that are following you and engaging with your content, and what are they interested in? Where do they live? What language do they speak? What device do they use primarily? And what other interests are they into? Like, it might fascinate you to find that, oh, actually a lot of people who engage with my content on Pinterest or follow me on Pinterest are really into fitness. I'm actually into fitness too, but I've never thought of doing more like fitness content on my blog or on my website. So it could definitely open up some avenues for you as you think about your content strategy. And this is where you can get all the extra information. So business.pinterest.com, we have guides, again, on like how to create great pins, like what I talked through. It's obviously the place where you can go convert or sign up for a business account. It's a place where you can learn about rich pins and get all the documentation for that, for your developer, for yourselves. It's a place where you get widgets, etc. It is the place. And that is it. Thank you guys.